get it rolling. We have a panel discussion on scaling strategies for entrepreneurs, fueling growth in the competitive marketing landscape. We have our first speaker joining in, Villamor. She's a marketer and content creator from BaYe TV channel. Can we have a big round of applause for her? Vittal Ramakrishna, CEO, founder with Board Invest. Can we have a big round of applause for him and have him on the stage, please? And the moderator of the session, Mataryun, Wright, President and CEO from RAMA companies. Can we have a big round of applause for Mataryun? So, over to you.
Very good, very good. Well, good afternoon. We're going to have a great conversation this afternoon. We got smaller in number, which means we get bigger in might. Is that right? We're going to have some fun this afternoon. I'll let I know we're running a little bit behind, so we'll move the conversation forward a little bit. As you know, this session is designed to talk about scaling strategies. How do you fuel growth as entrepreneurs in a very competitive landscape? And as we just heard from Ron's presentation, we know that the market is saturated with marketing, communications, digital marketing companies. And so part of what we're going to talk about is how to stand out and how to scale even in the face of a very saturated market. And so I'm excited to have this conversation. I guess I'll start with both panelists. Before we jump into the conversation, just a little bit about, tell us who you are and a brief line about your brand. We'll start with you, Rio.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, beautiful people. I'm Villamor. I'm from BaYe TV. I am a marketer by education and profession. I've worked in the corporate world for more than 10 years. And as someone who is an advocate of lifelong learning, someone who wants to make a difference in the lives of many, I decided to enter the teaching profession. So I'm also an educator for young entrepreneurs in New Zealand. And of course, I'm a content creator from BaYe TV channel. I started BaYe TV with my sister, Lian Villamor, and we provide travel and accommodation tips and hacks to our viewers. So it's really a pleasure to be with the experts in the industry today.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Want to say hello?
Hi all. But to the organizer, I think Shrikant is here. Okay, I thought your photo was here. Perfect. Perfect. Post-lunch sessions are always the toughest, you know. Everyone is sleepy.
Yeah.
But I'll try to keep it short. I am from India, Bangalore. I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm running my third startup currently. My first one got acquired by one of the largest companies in Germany in the investment space. Second company is profitable, have close to $25 million in revenue so far. The third one is something which I'm here in Dubai for. So that brings me also to this wonderful event. So good to have been with all of you guys. So in short, I would say the journey is definitely not short of any roller coaster ride, like any entrepreneur. So I would love to share more failures than the success part, because that's where we all learn from.
Absolutely,
Thanks.
absolutely. Give him a hand. Very good. And I think we have a video from our one of the third panelists who couldn't make it. Do you want to run that video now? I didn't know that was coming.
Hello everyone, I'm Sharzad Arifi, co-founder of Tourist Studio from Iran, and really excited to discuss something at the heart of every entrepreneur's journey, scaling. We all know the thrill of getting a business off the ground, but let's face it, the real challenge begins when it's time to grow. So what do we really mean by scaling? From my point of view, it's not just about expanding your operation. It's about doing it in a way that preserves the essence of what made you and your business special. As your company grows, it's become a balancing act to maintain the same level of quality, culture, connection with your customers, and of course your employees. Successfully scaling means bringing the right people on the board, having the flexible structure, truly understanding your market and your customers' mindset, and of course, strong culture. Now, let me dive into some key strategies for scaling. One of them is leadership development. This is not just about top-down leadership, but empowering leaders at every level and making sure the entrepreneurial spirit stays alive, even as the company grows. And another is cross-functional collaboration. As business expand, they often face more complexity. Cross-functional teams are a great way to manage that when departments collaborate efficiently. And it leads to better decision making and operational efficiently. And this brings us to another key topic: how different industries approach digital transformation and scaling. One approach involves shared resource and capabilities. Smaller firms often don't have all the resources and they need to scale on their own. By partnering with other companies, they can share knowledge, technology, and resources to solve complex challenges together. See you soon. Thank you.
Very good. Give her a hand. Very good. Thank you for that. All right, we'll come to bring the conversation back to the room now. I want to just level set today's conversation with a little bit of data. As we've already talked about, the digital marketing landscape is one that is very competitive. And so you might ask yourself, in terms of trying to scale, is there enough room for me? Can me and my company, as a startup, as a young company, is there enough room in the end, so to speak, for us to come together? Well, according to a report from Statista, global digital advertising spending reached $500 billion in 2022, with projections to surpass $700 billion by 2025. That is next year. Those staggering numbers illustrate it's a growing marketplace and that there is a need for effective scaling within this industry. Now, we've got to consider the technology aspect of scaling. And so according to a report by Deloitte, 73% of organizations that leverage AI in their marketing strategies report a significant increase in customer engagement. Most of the work that many of you and us are doing is around this idea of how do we get our customer more engaged with us in the work that we're doing. And then it's not just about technology, though. It's also about the human connection, and Ron just set up that part of the conversation very, very well. McKinsey, in a recent report, highlighted that organizations that prioritize engagement see a 20% increase in customer satisfaction and a 15% increase in revenue. Those are real numbers that when we're able to provide that kind of value to the customers and the clients we are working with, they're going to take a second look. And as an example, we think about big companies like Airbnb and what they did. So companies like Airbnb have shown that personalization is the key. By employing data-driven insights to tailor their user experience based on previous interactions with the platform, Airbnb has now not only scaled their user base significantly, but they've also created huge customer loyalty within their hosts and their guests. That's the kind of results we want to see for all of your businesses as you think about scaling. So as you know, even in my own experience, so I didn't share a lot yesterday, so I'm in my 21st year of business at RAMA Consulting. We're a US-based company out of Ohio, and we have three big areas. We do people development, so a lot of the things that Ron was talking about in the last session, very much in our wheelhouse. We also are, we take a slightly different angle when it comes to marketing. We are engaged in what we call engagement. So we're working with clients not just to do the digital marketing side, but how do they connect and use their clients and customers, and in many cases residents, because we work with a lot of government organizations. How do they use those insights from those individuals for their, how do they deliver services, how do they plan what's going to happen in the neighborhood, and how they stay connected with the folks around them. And then our third area is in strategic planning. We help organizations to plan their future. All of those things require a focus on how do you communicate better. And at the end of the day, that's what a lot of us are involved in, helping organizations to think about how they engage and communicate better. In our experience, there's been three big lessons about how to do this, and I'll come to our panel next for their insights. First, successful scaling requires a balance of data-driven decision-making, but also you've got to understand your customer at a deeper level, right? You really got to understand who is it I'm serving or who are they serving and how can they do it better. Secondly, we found that leveraging technology and even AI in more recent years provide a significant advantage, but it has to be met also with an agility. Can you change as the market changes? So a strategy last year might not be relevant this year, and so the ability for you to be valuable comes down to how quickly you can pivot. I call it the power of the pivot in the moment to be able to move to something that's a little more effective. And then finally, we can never underestimate the power of community and personalized engagement. Fostering strong relationships with customers really can be a key to your sustainable growth. And we've seen us in our business, we go deep with clients, meaning we are so integrated into their organizations that it kind of becomes hard for them to fire us, which is the way you want to be integrated with your customers as well. So how do you make yourself invaluable to the customers you're working with has been a key to our 20 years of progressive growth. And so now I want to come back to the room. I know these folks have different angles of how they have thought about marketing, thought about strategy, thought about business development, and how they've had to grow. So I'll start with you. In the digital content space, where audiences tend to, their preferences tend to shift pretty quickly. Today, one thing is hot. Tomorrow, the next thing is hot. How do you approach scaling when you recognize that the audience's perspectives may be changing in real time? How do you stay relevant in that conversation in order to scale your business and plan for the future?
All right. To answer that question, I will also emphasize on communication, which the scaling approach will be on storytelling. Storytelling, as a content creator for BaYe TV, storytelling is the heartbeat of our channel, of every video, every single video that we publish. And I also believe that storytelling is the heartbeat of every successful brand out there, whether they operate in a digital platform or not. Because storytelling transforms a mere information, a product, or a content into something that fulfills the need or satisfies the want of the people. And that's how you create that emotional connection with your audience. And if people can relate to your story, to your product, to your brand message, this group of people will be a community. Just what you've said, right? Will be a community, and that's how. And through this, they will be your strong advocate to promote, to share your content, your content to other people, to a wider community. And actually, a perfect example of that is Nike. Yeah. Okay, because their content and their advertisement, they don't really promote the product itself, like the product design or the aesthetics, but they really focus on the emotions, the experience, and the feelings of the people. Actually, because since I'm an educator, I always have this video. I think, is it possible for me to show a video right now?
You have to lean on the tech team for that.
Is it okay? I'll just send a video so that, because whenever I teach something to my students, I explain to them and give them visuals.
Okay. We can keep you talking while we try to work that out with the team, if that's okay.
Yeah, okay. Wait. I'll just send this, because I think it will be easier for the people to understand what I'm trying to say here. I sent it to the group chat. Okay, yeah, so what I'm saying is Nike is trying to connect with their audience through emotions.
Yeah.
Yep. it is like building a community where that community is, they share the story of their brand, which refers to motivation, to empowerment. And so, um, uh, I, I think it's easier, it's better for me to explain if they watch the video
Okay.
first.
All right, we'll
Yeah.
we'll do that just a moment. While we're waiting on the video, though, let me ask you this: are you finding that in terms of how you grow, is it better for you to be focused on, for example, the platforms? Right, TikTok is hot, Instagram is still strong. Like those, in terms of the platforms of where the customer is today, or are you spending more time focusing on trying to create the trend for where folks might be going in the future? How do you decide? And how should these folks be deciding where they're going to deploy their energy? Are they trying to shape audience preferences, or are you trying to respond to their current preferences? How do you approach thinking about those?
It is very important to respond to their preferences through the audience feedback. Yep. But it actually depends on what Mr. Ron have shared with us, whether you have the skills, the capabilities, right, and the motivation to really go into that area.
Okay.
But if your skills and capabilities is in another area, it's also good to focus on that and scale.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my take.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I just
ready?
want to share
Okay.
this. It's a short video from Nike. It's not working. Oh, there.
Greatness, it's just something we made up. Somehow we've come to believe that greatness is a gift reserved for a chosen few, for prodigies, for superstars, and the rest of us can only stand by watching. You can forget that. Greatness is not some rare DNA strand. It's not some precious thing. Greatness is no more unique to us than breathing. We're all capable of it. All of us.
You see, in their video, they're really not promoting the product itself. It's the feeling, the motivation, the empowerment, and that community is, they're sharing their brand's message and building that community, being part of the journey of those people, of those audience who want to be a better version of themselves and improve themselves and to be successful.
Yeah. And the point I think you're making is this fact that if you appeal to these larger concepts that everyone can buy into, all of us want to be great, regardless of what we decide to be great in. Everybody can get behind this notion of we all want to be great. And so Nike's really playing up on that and creating, as you said earlier, that emotional connection. So a great example to how you might think about really connecting with your audiences in new and exciting ways.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Can I go ahead? Okay. And another thing about storytelling, because I'm really focusing on storytelling because I'm a content creator. So I just want to emphasize that storytelling, you must be committed, and consistency is the key to make it effective. So for BaYe TV, for us, we actually have a content calendar. So we make sure that every week we will post a video, and at the same time. So being that consistent and committed to what you do builds trust and will give value to your audience. And I just want to sum up the scaling approach that you've asked me in the digital content space with an acronym of BCD, which is B for building that emotional connection with your audience, building that community, C is to be committed, stay consistent, and D to deliver value.
All right, y'all got it. BCD. All
Yeah,
right, you
BCD.
picked that up here. All right. I want to come here because your role in scaling is a little different as an investor and managing. But you oftentimes, I imagine, end up in a role where you are advising startups and other entrepreneurs about how to scale. And I'm sure a huge part of that is their marketing strategy. How do they position themselves in the broader marketplace? Can you talk about how you some tips, tools, strategies you've given to other entrepreneurs and startups maybe to think about scaling their business from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, my perspective is entirely different with what's been happening around the whole day, right? So for us, when we are looking to invest, we look at what the problem statement is from the entrepreneur. Now, what the problem statement will contain is how big the market they're addressing the problem with. And finally, it boils down to how will they address the market. So that's the go-to market. So the market is always the underlying factor for an entrepreneur to address what the problem statement is. So for that, the entrepreneur needs clarity as to who is my target segment, to whom I'm solving the problem for. So we always understand when I am also investing in startups, I ask the founder, what exactly are you doing? They go on to say, I'm raising so much money, I'm going to do this, I'm going to run Google ads, Facebook. No. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Then they again say, you know what, I've built this beautiful presentation. I took 4 days just doing that. I have a wonderful video. I've hired agencies to the... No. What are you doing? Right? So I think it boils down to the basics of what the understanding of the entrepreneur actually is and what does he want to do or what problem is he trying to solve for and to whom is that problem addressed to. If he's not clear on these aspects, it doesn't matter even if he spends $1 million on ads, right? So that's the first essence which I look at. And then how is he going to reach from 0 to 1? Who is that first paying customer, external, not your friends and family, who is going to back you for the solution you're providing? So I think these two aspects play a very important role when I am putting my money on that entrepreneur. And if he is not clear on this, there's no buck going into his account.
No, I love that. It's clarity around what are you doing and clarity around who needs it, right? Because any entrepreneur ought to be providing a solution, a problem, a service that is of value to somebody. I want you to stay there because some of these folks might be interested in getting different kinds of capital to fund the growth of their businesses. Are there trends right now in terms of the kinds of brands or the kinds of missions that are ripe for investment? Are there any trends around the types of businesses that you're seeing more interest in investing from others?
So usually there are always multiple waves that come into the market. Gen AI was the last wave, right? Any startup which were providing even the basic of solutions, they used to put Gen AI in their slides. Now that would be sold at multiple angles and investors would flock in, with the fear of missing out on something large. So there are certain elements in the market always which is driven by the sentiments of the people. So this is what drives the investors. But investors don't think what's in the hype now. They always think what's in the hype in the 3 years period. So this is something which is very crucial. So keeping those trends in mind is where investments actually come in and not at this point in time.
Yeah. Do you see any, I'm curious, I invest in a number of companies back in the US, but I'm wondering about, in your experience, the geographical changes of if you were looking at a company, maybe a US-led or backed company versus one that was based in India, are you looking for different things or is the value proposition pretty universal around the world?
So it's very rare that it's universal because the 0 to 1 journey is always regional, right? So if somebody says, you know what, my TAM is, let's say $100 billion across the globe, that is just the total addressable market. It is not the market which you will be able to service at all. So you always need to start small. Where is that smallness coming from is always your region specific. So it is always a localized problem. I'll give you an example. So my second startup, which is running profitable, is a version of an Etsy from India, localized to the Indian audience. Etsy also launched in India during the same time, but they did not gain traction because it was not localized. So I think localization is key, and understanding the sentiments of the real user is very crucial.
Yeah. So I hear you saying that understanding your smaller market first before you try to go global is critical, and particularly having that clarity before you seek investment is going to be important. We'll come back. I want to talk to both of you around how you use data in your, we'll go back here, in terms of how you think about it. In terms of what data are you tracking? Are there certain KPIs when it talks about how do you grow, how do you scale what you're already doing? What are you looking at as it relates to the data points? What are you focusing on? And then what metrics are you trying to either control or move in order to say you're doing better than you were maybe yesterday or last week?
In terms of scaling, for us, we don't just look at the subscribers. We also look for YouTube, because our main platform is YouTube. So we also look at the viewership, whether the people are interacting in our content through comments, and they're also part in our data. We also analyze data through the through whether there's a dip or there's a spike in every video, and that's where we really look into to know whether what our audience needs. And that's how that serves as our guide and compass to come up with another video to address the pain points that needs of our viewers.
Okay, very good, very good. So something does well, you say do more of that, right? Very good. What about data in your industry? I mean, it looks a little different, but it's still a concept, right? What kind of data are you looking at in terms of how well your investments are doing, maybe markets to take a look at? Well, how does data play a role in the work you're doing?
I think without data, I think the industry would not survive at all. For us, primarily because we always have benchmarks. We benchmark against a trend based on the industry, sector, region, and also the quantum of funds which are coming in or going out. So to understand that, we always look at source from where these funds are being flown in. Who are these user personas who are deploying the funds? What is their interest areas? How frequent they're investing? And what are the typical sectors they look at and at what stage? So all of these data collated is where we'll be able to benchmark what is the right investment or which is not the right, I would say, a company to be invested in. So that is also part of the SWOT analysis which you look at, the opportunities and threats for an investor.
Okay. I want to talk about the larger competitive landscape, particularly in marketing, digital marketing. There's a lot of folks at this conference and otherwise who are playing in that space. Maybe it's not your personal experience, maybe it's who you have advised or invested in, but as you advise folks about how to be competitive, how to really differentiate themselves, what kinds of strategies have you seen work? And the same would be true in terms of how you are building out your content. How are you thinking about the competitive landscape and how to stand out even in a very saturated kind of a market?
For me, with my experience looking at, we have invested in roughly around 46 companies till date. And my personal portfolio is also a little more than that. One thing which always I keep pushing for is retention. Because it's as much as you're able to achieve acquisition, which depends on what you're trying to do in terms of marketing or sales, it is the retention which actually stands out at the end of the day. Because the people whom you retain as customers can potentially become your brand ambassadors, who can spread more of word of mouth and get you more customers in return. So that adds into your indirect funnel. So this is typically which I typically advise all the startups, entrepreneurs, focus on retention. Acquisition will anyways follow.
What about you? How are you thinking about differentiating yourself? There's a lot of content creators out there, tons of influencers, either the market said they were or they said they were. In either case, there's a lot of folks out there claiming to be influencers and creators. How do you stand out and what strategies are you using to differentiate yourselves?
Well, I cannot really emphasize more on emotional touch, emotional connection with the audience. So me and my sister, we always try to be there in the video, because I know some content creators, they really use AI in their videos. Even the visuals are already AI. But for us, we are there, and we also emphasize on stories. That's what I've said, storytelling. There's a personal touch, like our viewers. Our viewers, they know who we are, our personal lives. We try to incorporate some personal touch in terms of our family, our celebrations. So they can relate to, they can resonate as well. And we also try to emphasize on the value that we can offer them. For example, in our niche, which is travel and accommodation, it's not just showing the people where we went to, but rather giving them an insight, an idea how to travel, how is it possible for everyone to travel around.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I think, for even for my own company, I want to go back to something that Ron shared, which is about him calling himself a workforce architect versus just a consultant or workforce strategist, because it begs the question. And certainly as a part of your differentiation, if you can find a concept to apply to your businesses and the way you talk about your work, that's a little different than what everybody else is doing. Sometimes that's a competitive advantage. So in our work, you heard me talk about, our work is really around engagement. Now for marketing folks, because many of you are, a lot of what we're doing as a component is experiential marketing with companies or with organizations, right? How do you engage your customer in something? But by calling ourselves an engagement firm, by talking about the work from an engagement perspective, it kind of differentiates us. And it begs the question, well, what is engagement consulting? What does that look like? What do you do? And so again, that becomes, in terms of differentiation, how do I position the work that I'm doing that might be very similar to the folks down the street? It's all about, as you know, as marketers, it comes to how you talk about it. And can you create, in America for a long time, if I needed to have a copy of this, people referred to it as a Xerox. Now, Xerox was just one company, right, making copy machines, but I called it a Xerox. Or regardless of what search engine you use, most of us today will say, I'm going to Google it, right? And you might have been using something else. So creating a brand that everybody can see themselves in, right, that they feel a part of, but also connects them in a different way where you become the standard for that industry is a way of carving out. And so I think I go back to, our keynote, our sponsor for this weekend with Ascendant and Raul. 20 years ago when he told me about trying to start a company, he said he was going to do CEO branding. Nobody knew what that was. Nobody knew what CEO branding would mean. And as he talked me through it, even I was like, well, what the hell is that, right? So over time, we became an organization that had to embrace kind of how you talk about things differently so that you get a different customer acquisition. So that can become a huge part of your strategy and how you differentiate. I want to talk about, have both of you talk about, none of us do this work alone. So think about from partnerships and collaborations. What role do partners and collaborators play in the growth of your organizations, and any examples of how those alliances have really served you and helped you to grow?
Okay. I believe that no one scales alone. Yeah. So, and that's the beauty of collaboration, such as partnership, sponsored content, affiliate marketing, and but for me, honestly, I would like to emphasize that it is very important to choose the right partners. Because at the end of the day, if your partnership doesn't resonate to your brand, to your message, then it will dilute the trust that you've building so hard with your audience. Yeah. But with great partnership, it can extend your reach. It can elevate your brand without compromising who you are.
Yeah. What about you? What partnerships, collaborations, what served you well on your journey?
I think partnerships definitely help in the investment landscape, because we are looking at quality deals to invest in. Yeah. And there's no single source to get the deal flow. For us, elephant in the room is quality deals. Yeah. So we look at deals from all the partners. The best is what we choose, and we definitely incentivize the people who have shared the best deals to us in investing. So it's a win-win for everybody in the market. Yeah. So I think collaboration wins far further than competition. So that way everybody wins in the game. but it's also not easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of puzzle involved, with people management. I think we just saw Ron mention that.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely not a cakewalk.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I remember this phrase, growth is important, but authenticity is everything.
Very good, very good. Well, I was going to ask you to close with, in just a moment, with your most valuable business advice. So you're going to have to think of something else now. But let me ask you something. You brought up AI, and I wanted to get both of your perspectives about that in terms of the role of AI. You talked about not utilizing it as much in your content creation, but what have been your ways of using AI to scale your businesses? How should folks be thinking about applying AI regardless of the industry that they're in?
Okay. For AI, what we really use, actually, it's actually the content of my sister later, but I will touch on that. We use AI for writing, for coming up with our thumbnails, but definitely we have that second review that we have to refine it. We have to polish our script, our thumbnails. We still need to tweaks and have that personal touch, even though we use AI as a first draft.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so starting point.
Yeah, starting. That's
very
right.
Good. Very good. Very good. What about your business and your industry? AI as relevant as it might be in some others?
So 30% of our industry relies on decision making,
Yeah.
and we need a lot of data points to make those decisions. So I think 70% of the work is very mundane. So a lot of work happens in the background through AI. It speeds up the entire process.
Wow.
So that makes our decision making much more powerful, precise, and with a lot less time taken.
Yeah, it's
So I think AI definitely helps us. And personally, I use AI as my virtual assistant.
Yeah.
It segregates my mundane tasks day to day, already organizes stuff which I need not look at it. So it's helped me save a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the ways I'm using it too. I'm a busy guy, and AI is helping me a lot to even manage my crazy calendar. So that's a huge one for us. We want to get to some audience questions in just a moment too. So if you have those, get those ready. I guess I would ask, in terms of growing your businesses, any valuable advice you've gotten maybe from others that you would want to maybe impart to the audience about how they should think about scaling, how to grow, how to just stay motivated to continue the work that you're doing. What's the best advice you've been given?
Something which I usually follow is quitter never wins, winner never quits. I modified that. I said quitter never wins, Vittal never quits. So that's how I have done. So that's my daily motivation.
Personalize it. Very good. I
Thanks.
love that.
Okay. As an educator, I kept on reminding my students that there's one golden rule, which is not just to know your target customers, but rather to know them intimately. And how do we do that? Okay, just to give you a backstory. When I was still studying, my business mentor told me that there's one simple, very simple question that rules everything in this world, whether with our personal life or with business. And if we were able to address this or answer this simple question, we will be successful. And the simple question, it is, what's in it for me? So in the business context, what's in it for our customers? What's in it for our employees as well? Because Mr. Ron thought about HR, so I remember that it's good to add that. So because it's actually, it is what drives action. The perceived value that we can offer our customers.
Yeah.
And if we were able to address that, if we focus on our niche, building our community, building that emotional connection with our audience, creating experiences that meet the needs of the people, it's very basic. And if we continuously reflect and answer that simple, very simple question, what's in it for us, then we will be able to deliver value, and growth becomes inevitable.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about ready. We can get ready to move to audience questions before we close. Is there any questions from the audience? We got a mic coming behind you. We'll take a couple of questions.
Hi, thank you very much for so much of insights on this subject, scaling. Now, my question is about scaling versus perfecting. Like, I heard WhatsApp founders saying that they introduced subscription long back to slow down the growth. They said that we don't want to scale up so fast that we cannot handle, our servers cannot handle the requests. So they just introduced this as a roadblock to their growth. So how important it is in every business, right, to decide when to slow down, when to scale up, when to perfect the product. Sometimes perfection takes long time and you never grow, you know. So that's a trade-off. And how do we measure the trade-off?
Your thoughts?
I think not many people would be at the scale of WhatsApp, of course. Yeah. People would be happy to be in such a problem situation, right? But it is very important to break it down. You know, break it down into certain milestones and understand on a real ground as to where the business would stand. That is why projections are important. So nowadays, a lot of entrepreneurs just put multiples of revenue, expenses, put it out as projections. But the true projections happen in your day-to-day reality of your customer base. So if I am 100 customers today, will I be able to serve 1,000 customers? Will my infrastructure serve that? Am I prepared to scale? If I'm prepared to scale, what is the cost involved? To get into that cost involved, do I have enough cash flow or do I need to raise funds from outside? So this meticulous planning is what is needed when you break it down stage by stage. So I would say startups or any business for that matter need to look at scale. They always need to look at that North Star, what they want to achieve, but by breaking it down into multiple levels. Only then they'll be able to take it one step at a time. If not, it'll just be like a poster on your bedroom. Yeah. I just wanted to be that. Yeah.
Well, and one thing I'll share around this is a concept we use, which is to move at the speed of trust. And what do I mean by that is for your customers, that may mean, have I seen them consistently perform over time, where if they had another 100 customers, another 1,000,000 customers like me, they could still deliver on that same brand promise is going to be important. But it's also moving at the speed of trust of your team. Because if we in the meeting and we're doing strategy and we're saying we're going to serve 50,000 new customers, and then everybody in the room is actually rolling their eyes like we barely can service the ones we have today. How are we going to serve? So they don't necessarily trust yet that we can move in that direction, which means their behaviors are going to be tied to a doubt. And so until you kind of flesh that out and understand where that doubt is coming from, really analyze what it's going to take to move to be able to scale. So that moving at the speed of trust is both at the customer level, but it's also at the level of your team and making sure they're ready to move in that aggressive pace that might be really allowing you to scale in real time. Another question over here.
You have a question?
Okay, so I have the question for the lady. She's talking about, especially for you, about the story creating. I want to ask you one tip. Like, I am into the social media back into 2009, but in 2017, I stopped and I focus on my business. Now, in 2023, when I feel that it is a need of the future, I started again. But I never ever get, since past 1 year, the same power of the audience and the same power of the connectivity, engagement, same as before. So what you would like to give me the tip to grow up same like as before, as you are very active into the community?
I think just what I've said a while ago, you don't just know your customers, you need to really know your target customers, know them intimately, and where are they? Because if you don't do your research in the first place, who are your target customers, then you won't really be able to have that same customer base as before. Yeah, you really need, all of us, we need to do market research. Yeah.
All right, do we have any more questions for the session? All right, can we have a big round of applause for a wonderful panel discussion and scaling strategies for the entrepreneurs. Can you all come forward? Thank you, Mataryun, for moderating the wonderful session. So please move forward for the group photograph. Thanks.
I would like to invite Mithali to present certificate of participation to Mataryun Wright, the wonderful moderator of this session. Come on guys, huge round of applause for Mataryun. So next we have Villamor. Come on guys, huge round of applause for Villamor. And at last we have Vittal Ramakrishna. Come on guys, huge round of applause for Vittal.